I started my first business when I was 8 years old. Every Sunday, I would stand by the side of the road and I would collect the manure from our horses. And I would put it into these big white Hessian bags and sell those bags for $2 a piece to my neighbors who were trying to improve their gardens. On a good day, I went home with $20 in my back pocket. Even at 8, I tasted potential, I tasted dependence, and I liked it. In my 20s and 30s, I built what most people would consider a successful career. I left a comfortable base in Australia, and I traveled the world. I lived and worked in South Africa, in Ireland, in Dubai, in Thailand, and in the Maldives. I did jobs that I loved. I worked with extraordinary people in remarkable places. My ambition rewarded me. By the time I turned 40, I had perfected what I now call the pursuit of more. I had more success, more validation, more money, more travel, more things, more jewelry. But I also had more emails, more work, more late-night Zoom calls, just more pressure, more of everything. I thought that if I was more successful, I would feel more validated. And if I earned more, I would feel more secure. And I was very good at it. But at around that same time, a question started taking space in my mind. If I'm lucky, I have around half of my life left. So, what is it for? And at almost that exact moment, I was offered a very rare opportunity to live and work in Bhutan. So, I quit a job that I loved in Bangkok, in Thailand's chaotic capital, and I moved here to Thimphu, high in the Himalayas. And this has now been my home for almost 4 years. On my first day of work, I was told, do not come into the office today. Not because my laptop wasn't set up or HR wasn't ready, but because the stars weren't aligned. Local belief thought that, astrologically speaking, that day was not a good day to start a new job. The mountains also made me feel that I was somewhere quite different. Here, we're at altitude. The air is thinner. So it makes you breathe differently, move differently, think differently. Every time you walk uphill, it's steep. You cannot race quickly up here. It's almost like from day one, the mountains started teaching me patience. The Himalayas are home to some of the world's oldest wisdom traditions. Vajrayana Buddhism speaks of contentment, which is roughly translated as the knowledge of enough. It's not complacency or a lack of ambition. It's more like an inner steadiness, one that removes this constant hunger for more. And once I started seeing it, I saw that it actually is everywhere and controls everything. And even it shapes people's concept of time itself. In most of the world, time is money. But here, time is presence. There is time for tea, time for rituals, there is time for happiness, there is time for grief. There is time for silence. In many Himalayan communities, cultural, social, and religious rituals and traditions often take precedence over work. So, a harvest, a festival, a puja, these are not interruptions to productivity. They are the point. And that unsettled me because I have come from a world obsessed with productivity and results. In the Himalayas, this idea of contentment, it's not an individual belief. It's actually collectively held, and it's reinforced by the decisions that a community or a society decides to, the values that they decide to reinforce. So for instance, in Bhutan, around 7% of the community is monastic, meaning nuns or monks. And these people are highly revered and regarded and respected members of the community. So that means that around 1 in 14 people, roughly, has stepped out of this pursuit of more. Spiritual practice isn't limited to the weekends. It's actually ingrained into daily life. And that changes how a society thinks and acts. It also challenges this assumption that the pursuit of more and ambition is the only respectable path. The Himalayas also does something quite unique. They impose limits. If you look around us here, many of these peaks in Bhutan have never been summited before. Not because they can't be, but because some places are not meant to be conquered. Just because you can, should you? Very recently, I was riding my motorbike in Ladakh, which is another beautiful corner of the Himalayas. And suddenly, when I went round the corner, a huge flood came rushing down the mountain. This is because it was so hot, unusually hot, that the glaciers were melting at an unprecedented rate. This flood damaged the roads. Nobody could cross. We were stuck for hours. And as I stood there, it was painfully clear to me that for decades, much of the world has viewed expansion as progress, development as success. But these mountains tell a different story. The natural world has limits. And our constant pursuit of more is damaging these systems that were never designed to carry them. I've come to learn that limits are not failure. They are protection. I often wonder whether I could have learnt this lesson anywhere, or if I needed Bhutan to teach me. Because we spend most of our lives learning how to achieve more. But very few of us are ever taught how to recognize when we have enough. I believe that there are 2 dominant strategies for living. The first one is the pursuit of more. We live in a global system designed for acceleration. Endless consumption, achievement upon achievement. But have we ever thought about what's the end goal? How do we know when we have enough? In these mountains, in this part of the world, contentment is valued. It is not surrender. It is discipline. Discipline to know and recognize limits. And discipline to understand the point when need quietly turns into greed. I've come to think of this as the second way of living, which is the courage to be content. A courage that asks 3 simple questions. What truly matters? What is worth protecting? And what is not for sale? When I return to Brisbane, to Singapore, to London, to Delhi, I see my friends and my colleagues in the pursuit of more. And that's okay. I just recognize it. I don't have FOMO, but I make my own choice about whether or not to participate now. I realize that I'm extremely fortunate to be in this position. Not everybody has the opportunity to redefine success on their own terms. Many of us are also just working very hard to provide for your loved ones and families. But I encourage you all to think, where is your Bhutan? Success will still find me, but so will stillness. More mountains, more books, more afternoons that belong to nobody else. More time with my daughter before childhood slowly slips away. In an age defined by burnout, climate instability, and relentless acceleration, perhaps the bravest thing is choosing your own limits of success. Having the courage to say, this is enough. I've learned that the pursuit of more is easy, but being content takes courage. I would like to leave you with a question that the mountains asked me. If you were to stop chasing more, who would you become? Thank you.